This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology. The images are for illustration purposes only. Suyu frowned and said with a hint of anger, "Blood God, you can settle your personal grudges with him after this. How can we allow you to mess around in this time?" The Scion's face turned cold as he said, "I'm sorry, Lord Suyu. This time, we have to settle our grudges. This kid's escape technique is extraordinary. If he goes out, I really don't have the confidence to catch him." At this time, Suyu and the people from the Holy Region were seriously injured, and he was too lazy to care about his face. Suyu's face revealed an unhappy expression as he didn't expect the Blood God to dare to attack Wuanai at this time. However, everyone was injured, and he was the strongest. It wasn't good to forcefully order him, so he could only say, "I can deal with it. You can state any conditions you want." "No conditions." The Scion shook his head. "I must have him." Suyu was furious. He did not expect the Blood God to be so ungrateful. He said coldly, "Lord Blood God, you're really giving me face." The Blood God's face flickered, and his eyes flickered. If he completely offended the sacred zone, he would not have a good ending even if he got Yunxiao. Unless he refined the blood fiends and the transcendent grade profound level weapons, that would be the case. After pondering for a while, he said, "Since you've said so, I, the Blood God, can't be stubborn. Alright, I'll settle my personal grudges after this matter." Yunxiao was taken aback by Blood God's sudden generosity. He knew the secrets of the blood fiends, and those things were shocking enough, so there was no way the other party would give them up. The Scion of the Blood God looked at him coldly and began to pour his blood-stained chi into Dijia's magical barrier. The other two disciples of the Blood God Palace also took action. Everyone must do their best and work together to get through this difficult time. Although Suyu and the other three survivors were gradually recovering their strength, they were basically disabled. They could only give everyone some spiritual encouragement. "As long as you pass this tribulation, you can all come to the Holy Region to find me to receive your rewards." The rest of the martial artists poured their own elemental energy in without holding back. Even if Suyu did not promise any reward, they would still fight with their lives. Otherwise, if the demonic cloud was not destroyed, they would be dead when Di finished attracting Di Jun. Di Jia's face was solemn and calm. He began to cast spells, guiding the power to run through the entire magic barrier. Demonic energy, blood, and vital chi, the three-colored power, circulated in the enchantment. The enchantment continued to expand as if it was going to burst open the demonic energy. The three forces gradually merged and gathered toward Dijia, who was in the center. Di Yi, who was in the sky far away, noticed something strange. A trace of anger flashed across his face. He let out a roar and accelerated the absorption of Di Jun. If Dijia escaped, it would be a waste to chase him back. In the camp, everyone was nervously looking at Dijia's wizardry barrier. Sure enough, after absorbing a large amount of energy, it did not disappoint. It gradually opened up a space, allowing a trace of light from the outside to come in, bringing everyone endless hope. It's opened as expected. The clone of Blood God's body trembled, and a fierce look flashed in his eyes. Suddenly, his aura changed. While pouring the power of bloodstain into him, he sent a stream of power from his left hand at Yunxiao. A sea of blood opened up, and in an instant, a blood slave at the level of a martial emperor was formed, which swallowed the defenseless Yunxiao in one gulp. This sudden turn of events shocked everyone. Mo Xiaochuan and Halian Xiaohuang were even more enraged. They no longer cared about maintaining the energy barrier and immediately attacked. "Blood God, you broke your promise." Suyu was also furious. The Scion of the Blood God laughed coldly and controlled the blood slave to charge toward the light in the barrier. He then cast the blood ignition art and quickly formed several hand seals in front of him, blasting Mo Xiaochuan and the other man away. "When did I break my promise? Didn't the barrier break? Since the matter is settled, it's time to settle my personal matters. Lord Suyu, everyone, goodbye." The scion of the blood god laughed and rushed toward the light with the blood slave. However, his expression changed in an instant as he found that he was blocked by an invisible force. He suddenly looked up at Dijia and said angrily, "What's going on?" Dijia's face was still calm, but the aura on his body gradually changed. He no longer looked like a lamp that was half dried up, and his eyes were flashing with a bright light. "You coward." Blood God's heart trembled and he said in horror, "Your condition is not good." Dijia opened his mouth slightly and said in a cold voice, "You piece of trash, I was almost fully recovered, and you actually destroyed the energy transmission at the last minute. Damn it." "What? You're actually using our power to recover?" The blood god was shocked. Dijia raised his hand, and black light flashed in his 5 fingers. Then, several rays of black chi slammed down, fierce and unparalleled. "I'm angry. You're the one who should die." The clone of blood god was furious. He burned his blood essence and cast a spell at the same time as the martial supreme blood slave. They combined and blasted out together. "It's no use. This barrier is like my world. All of our powers will be suppressed." Dijia softly spat out 2 words and said, "Obliteration." Bang bang bang. The black chi directly broke his blood print and entered his blood slave's body, causing a bloody mist to burst out. The blood god was shocked. There was indeed something strange about this enchantment. He was injured by a single attack. He no longer dared to stay in the enchantment and rushed out with his blood slave. This sudden turn of events, not to mention the blood god, even Suyu and the others were completely stunned. They fell into an unprecedented sense of powerlessness. They were completely helpless when the blood god went back on his words. Who knew that Dijia was even more sinister? He had been tricking them from the beginning. Su trembled with anger and said, "A bunch of untrustworthy people." "Oh. Did I not keep my word?" Dijia's mouth curved into a smile and said, "It's you who misunderstood. This demon cloud has indeed been split open by my barrier. The light you see is not an illusion, it's indeed the sunlight from the outside. However," he revealed his cunning teeth and chuckled, "it's just that I'm the only one who can leave. The only regret is that I didn't recover 100% of my strength. I've never been stingy with punishing those who destroy it." A cold light flashed in Dijia's eyes. He formed a seal with his hands, and the surrounding wizardry immediately condensed into his palm. It turned into a highly concentrated black energy ball in his palm, which shot toward the blood god. The black ball instantly rushed out and stopped in the air a moment later before suddenly exploding. Boom boom boom. The powerful black light swept across everything and washed across the earth without restraint. This explosion immediately attracted the attention of Di and the other camp of the Sea of Soul formation. They all cast their gazes over. The clone of blood god and the blood slave were the closest to the explosion, so their bodies were blown to pieces in an instant. A large amount of blood chi flowed out, and the demonic chi poured directly into his body, crazily destroying his other physical bodies. The blood slave was directly annihilated by the impact of the explosion, turning into a bloody mist. A beam of light rushed out of it, and it was Yunxiao, who was unscathed. With a sneer on his face, he turned to Dijia and said, "Thank you." Dijia snorted coldly. "I'm just punishing the person who interrupted my plan. As for you, you have a lot of things that I want. Keep them safe." After he finished speaking, he stepped into the light and was about to disappear in front of everyone. As Dijia stepped in, the light circle gradually shrank. It was obvious that he had calculated that he would be the only one to leave. In the explosion of the demonic light, a few more people died. The rest of the people looked on in despair. Their power had been drained, and they had been hit by Dijia. They were basically disabled, and their hearts were filled with despair. Shwa shwa shwa. Just as Dijia stepped into the light, the sound of chains suddenly came from the air, as if it came from an infinite distance. The crowd only saw countless chain shadows swaying in the air, leaving after images. Finally, they wrapped around Dijia dozens of times before stopping. "It's you?" Di Jia's face changed and he said coldly. A man slowly walked over from the air. It was Hang Yuan. Without any expression on his face, he said lightly, "It's me." Why? Di Jia asked. He didn't understand. Since Hang Yuan was the successor of the demonic servant, he should naturally be loyal to him. Frowning, he seemed to have thought of something and recited, "It's that clone? You're planning to join him?" Hang Yuan shook his head slightly, smiled, and said, "Of course not. I'm me, I've never intended to rely on anyone from the start." His face gradually twisted as he said coldly, "The reason why I was so anxious to find the demon master and release him was to seize his true demon essence force and refine his body." What? Di Jia was furious. Although they were going to target Di Yi, they were all separated from the demon lord monarch and were originally one. Hang Yuan's idea made him extremely angry, and he shouted, "You, a mere descendant of a demonic servant, actually dare to betray me?" Pa. Hang Yuan spat and said disdainfully, "What demonic servant? That's just Yan Shi from a long time ago. I merely cultivated demonic techniques. For countless years, my master, grandmaster, great-grandmaster, and so on have all been trying to find you and refine you. Do you really think you're an undying and invincible existence? Big brother, the times have changed. The realm of heavenly martial arts is no longer the realm of heavenly martial arts of the past." His face revealed a trace of malevolence as he sneered, "As for a mere demon like you, in the eyes of us humans, you're just a laughable loser. And you call yourself a demon master? Where does your sense of superiority come from? After I refine you, I'll be able to attain a supreme true fiend body and even cultivate your true fiend dharma idol." After saying that, Hang Yuan took a step in the air and walked toward Di Jia, who was bound by chains. The entire sky fell into a terrifying silence. Everyone was dumbfounded as they looked at this scene. There were so many variables that they were at a loss. Fortunately, Su Yu and the others were exhausted. They had no choice but to wait quietly. Di Jia gradually calmed down his anger, and his eyes burst into a cold light. He said coldly, "Do you think you can capture me with just a piece of trash like you? I'm not sure, but if I lose this opportunity, I'm afraid there won't be a next time," Hang Yuan said proudly. "Choose between you and the one in the sky, I choose you." Di Jia snorted angrily. "You won't die if you don't seek death. That's an eternal truth. Since that's the case, I'll have one more demon slave before I leave, so that you'll never betray me." A cold killing intent burst out from his body. His hands formed a seal, and a stream of demonic chi was compressed in his palm. Then, it suddenly burst out and scattered in all directions, shaking the chain. Shwa shwa shwa. The shadowlock flew all over the sky, but it did not stop, making a series of crisp sounds, locking Di Jia and crossing the sky. Di Jia's pupils shrank and he said in shock, "It can lock the power of devil essence?" Hang Yuan heaved a sigh of relief, and his eyes flickered with excitement as he said, "As expected, it worked. Demon Lord, this chain has been through the research and refinement of several experts, the collection of rare treasures in the world, and the painstaking efforts of countless generations. It was only in my grandmaster's hands that it was completely formed. It's no different from an ordinary profound level weapon, or even worse than an ordinary profound level weapon, but its strongest point is that it can seal demonic chi." Hang Yuan sighed deeply with emotion. "It's a pity that my grandmaster wasn't as lucky as me. He had already turned into ashes before you were born. Only I, Yu Xingfeng, am the only one who is destined to obtain the true demon body and become the new generation of demon masters." Yunxiao's heart jolted. The name Yu Xingfeng seemed a little familiar, but he could not remember where he had heard it. At this moment, he and his two disciples were rapidly circulating their qi and regulating their breathing. They were striving to recover to their peak strength as soon as possible so that they could deal with the unknown that was about to happen. Seeing that the demonic vitality lock was working, Hang Yuan became more daring. He jumped up gently and landed on a swaying chain. He began to cast a spell with both hands, making the chain across the sky constantly change its formation, winding toward the center and tightening around Di Jia. Di Jia let the chains wrap around him. Anger appeared on his face, but he did not panic at all, which surprised Heng Yuan. He sneered tentatively and said, "Demon Lord, what are your thoughts before you die?" Di Jia saw through his thoughts at a glance and said coldly, "You don't need to test me. If it wasn't for today's coincidence, perhaps I really would have fallen for your Tao." He raised his right hand and started to slowly circulate his MO skill. Heng Yuan's pupils shrank, and he suddenly exclaimed, "What? This is..." The red and white colors on Di Jia's palm were spinning non-stop, like a galaxy. It was the power of blood and vitality he had absorbed before. I can demonize and absorb the external power, but I can't really turn it into true demonic vitality. I can also reverse the demonized power. Demon slave, are you ready to die? A murderous glint flashed in his eyes. Two forces suddenly exploded from Di Jia's body, shaking the seal of the chain. Heng Yuan stood on the chain unsteadily, as if he could not seal it. Boundless nature, demonic technique reversal. Di Jia shouted, and the two forces turned into a vortex with him as the center, constantly washing the chain. The chain made a sorrowful sound, and the formation that locked Di Jia began to break. Heng Yuan's face changed greatly. Such a coincidence had happened. At this moment, the devil qi in Di Jia's body had been completely reversed and turned into the blood and yuan power that he had absorbed before. The power shook the devil essence lock and it could no longer hold on. Although neither of you are good people, I always feel that you are a much greater threat than him. If the devil essence lock can't suppress you, then what about my divine realm tablet? Yunxiao's voice suddenly rang out in the sky. In an instant, the divine realm tablet turned into a mountain, and an infinite gravity appeared around it, pressing down on the entire space until it was completely deformed and falling toward where Di Jia was. Di Jia was furious. "Li Yunxiao, don't forget that I just saved you," he shouted. "Is this how you repay kindness with ingratitude?" Yunxiao kept performing incantation gestures to control the divine realm tablet as he snorted coldly and said, "Do you think that without you, the scion of the blood god would have been able to hurt me? I just wanted to make a move after making a plan, but I didn't expect the situation to become more and more complicated. After thinking it through, I felt that you were a greater threat than Heng Yuan. As long as I killed you, the one in the sky would not be able to recover his complete emperor body and would be killed sooner or later." Childish. If the demon master could be killed so easily, Di Jia shouted angrily, how could he have been suppressed by you for so long? With a loud roar, his body suddenly enlarged and turned into a huge demon. He threw a punch at the divine realm tablet, shaking the earth and the sky. As soon as Yunxiao moved, Mo Xiaochuan and Halian Xiao Huang moved as well, throwing a punch and a sword at Di Jia. Damn it! Di Jia gritted his teeth in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Although the divine realm tablet was powerful, it was still knocked back by his punch. However, Mo Xiaochuan's sword momentum made him feel depressed. He instantly changed back from his demon form. With a flash of his figure, he dodged the power of the sword and counterattacked. The shock caused by the punch on the divine realm tablet was too strong. All the people in the Sea of Soul formation in the distance flew up and rushed over. Many of them had been demonized by Di Jia. When they saw their master, they lost their minds and rushed over with a roar. "What?" Yunxiao was taken aback. "Yu Shengfeng, stop those devils. The rest of the people in the Sea of Soul formation will kill the devil lord with me." Heng Yuan's body trembled as he looked at Yunxiao with lightning-like eyes and said in a cold voice, "You know me?" "I just remembered," Yunxiao said with a smile. "He's very famous, and his name reverberates like thunder." "Humph." Heng Yuan snorted coldly and took back the devil essence lock, which was the nemesis of all devil essence power and a priceless treasure. He also knew that Yunxiao had asked him to stop the fiend because he had the fiend essence lock. "Yi Chengying, quickly kill the demon masters and leave these demons to me." Heng Yuan's chain crossed in the air and blocked the people who were rushing toward him. It formed a huge spider web in the air and pounced on those devils who were baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. These people were originally companions. Without Di Jia's influence, their minds and everything else could be considered normal. However, once they were affected by Dijia, they became complete demons and lost all their rationality. The cobweb formed by the demonic vitality lock flew over the air. Hang Yuan made a hand seal and immediately covered all of them in it. The net shrank rapidly and trapped everyone in the air, making threatening gestures and roaring loudly. The rest of the people who had not been demonized felt a lingering fear in their hearts, and they rushed down to help Yunxiao kill Dijia. Dijia's face suddenly changed, and he was completely at a disadvantage. His body was constantly penetrated by various attacks, and his strength was getting weaker and weaker. Master! Damn it, damn it! The demons on the spider web unleashed their demonic chi, but it was useless. Only one person, with a roar, not only turned into a demon, but her entire body also started burning. She suddenly broke free from the spider web's restraint. With her as the center, the sky was filled with sparkling sparks. Clang! Clang! The man broke free of the fiend lock, turned into a huge fireball, and fell from the sky, flying toward Yunxiao and the others, burning everything in his way to ashes. Hua Yin. Yunxiao was shocked. The woman who had set herself on fire was Hua Yin. She was a 4-star martial emperor who had turned into a demon and burned. The power was unstoppable. Hang Yuan had intended to make a move, but his body began to collapse under the shocking power. What? This trash body. Ever since he had taken over Hang Yuan's body, he had been making do with it. It was probably because the art of possession was to destroy the cycle of reincarnation and was not tolerated by heaven and earth. Every time he used it, he would consume a lot of energy, so he had kept it. However, at this moment, the body of a mere martial arts grandmaster began to gradually collapse under the shocking power of the sound of fire. Damn it! Hang Yuan was unwilling to give up, but he had no choice. He instantly turned into a beam of light and escaped from the sea of fire. Not only him, Yi Chengying and the others also retreated in shock, not daring to block this attack. A complicated look appeared in Yunxiao's eyes. He sighed deeply and said, "Sigh, heaven's will, let's retreat." Mo Xiaochuan and Halian Xiaohuang, who had been waiting sternly and planning to fight to the death, frowned when they heard Yunxiao's sigh and flew away. Hui Yin's shocking momentum suddenly slowed down and slowly landed in front of Dijia. She knelt down on one knee and called out softly, "Master." Dijia was extremely weak at the moment. His face flickered under the light of the flame, and no one could tell what he was thinking. The sound of fire not only burned her body, but also her soul power. She said anxiously, "Master, run. The tunnel is about to disappear." Dijia stood there quietly and said, "Why do you want to burn your soul as well?" Hua Yin was stunned. She didn't expect him to ask this question. She laughed and said, "Once you become a demon, doesn't that mean that even your soul belongs to Master?" Dijia's shadow was extremely long under the illumination of the flame, extending into the endless dark clouds. He slowly turned around and ignored the sound of fire as he walked into the light circle. Everyone widened their eyes and helplessly watched him leave until his body disappeared. Many people wanted to rush up and stop him. However, no one had the courage to go up as a 4-star martial emperor had burned his soul to protect him. The moment Dijia's figure disappeared into the ring of light, a faint voice came, "You are the best fiend slave I've had in countless years." The circle of light gradually disappeared with Dijia's departure, and the whole earth returned to darkness again. Except for the gradually burning man on fire, there was no other light.